What's going on, guys? I'm your Wrestling King, coming at you with the WWE 2018 Pay-Per-View DVD Collection. So I'm trying to get more of these pay-per-view collections out, at least the ones that I have complete. So I'm going to get right into this. 2018, starting out with the Royal Rumble. So on the front cover, you have your Universal title triple threat match, Brock Lesnar, Braun Strowman, and Kane. Not the greatest match of the night, but, it was what it was. And then you had Ronda Rousey, who made her WWE debut at this show right after the first ever Women's Royal Rumble match, who would be won by Asuka. So you have Asuka right there, as well as the two women's champions at the time, Alexa Bliss and Charlotte. And yeah, so that was really cool. You got Asuka winning and setting up for her match, eventual Mania match against Charlotte. And then Ronda Rousey debuting. And yeah, I thought her 2018 run was pretty good for Ronda Rousey. I thought she did pretty well this year. Then on the spine, you have your men's Rumble winner, Shinsuke Nakamura, in a really good men's Rumble. You had Rey Mysterio returning. You had John Cena and Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, Finn Balor. I believe Finn Balor, Cena, Reigns, and Nakamura were the final four. That was a really exciting, finale to the match. You even have Kofi Kingston doing his spot where he stays in the match. And you had AJ Styles defending the WWE title against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the WWE title in a handicap match. So yeah, overall, pretty good Rumble. Really good Rumble matches, I would say. Both men and women's delivered. And yeah, so not a bad show. It was pretty exciting and was looking up for the year of pay-per-views, I would say. So yeah, Royal Rumble, great start to 2018. Next up, we have our double feature of Elimination Chamber and Fastlane, and this would be the final double feature that they would release. So for Elimination Chamber, you have your 7-man chamber, the first and I believe the only 7-man chamber, with Reigns, Strowman, Balor, Elias, Cena, Rollins, and The Miz. Obviously, Roman Reigns would win, and this made it to where he would go on to face Lesnar at Mania for the Universal title. And then you had your first ever women's Elimination Chamber match, Alexa Bliss defending the Raw Women's title against Sasha Banks, Mickie James, Bayley, Sonya Deville, and Mandy Rose. And then down here on the Fastlane cover, you have AJ Styles there with a white background. Looks pretty cool. I actually like this cover quite a bit. And there's your spine. So yeah, for some reason the spines of the double features I always liked. They look pretty nice on the shelf, I won't lie. So Elimination Chamber was kind of a shorter pay-per-view. You had a contract sign-in for Ronda Rousey just to be a competitor, and she would put Triple H through a table, setting up for her mixed tag match at Mania. And then you had Nia Jax versus Asuka. I believe for Asuka's spot at Mania, her number one contender shot. And yeah, I already mentioned the two chamber matches, but pretty solid show. I thought the main event was really good. Even though everyone knew Roman would win, it was still a good men's chamber. They have Fastlane, you got the Usos and the New Day, and they always had good matches. They always do. You had Charlotte versus Ruby Riott for the SmackDown Women's title, and Asuka would come out and, say she was challenging Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's title at Mania. So that would be the full, her choice. And then the 6-pack challenge for the WWE title, AJ Styles against John Cena, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Baron Corbin, and Dolph Ziggler. So, not terrible shows. I thought both of them did decently building to Mania. Elimination Chamber obviously being a Raw show, and SmackDown had Fastlane. But yeah, they were decent shows. Nothing too crazy going on at both of them, but they were decent leading into Mania and setting up the matches. So, yeah, pretty good shows leading into WrestleMania. And here we have it, WrestleMania 2018, also known as WrestleMania 34. They went back to New Orleans only 3-4 years after they were in there for WrestleMania 30. But I think this Mania had some ups and downs. It wasn't my favorite, but I do like some parts of the show. I like the cover. It's kind of crazy, New Orleans, so it's kind of cool. You have just your wide array of superstars, which kind of is the trend for 2018. I remember a lot of the covers have just everyone they can put on a cover. Nice WrestleMania spine. I like the gold logo with the green. And then down there you have Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle. And on the back you have your usual WrestleMania compilation of screenshots. Very cool. You know, this was where Daniel Bryan would return to in-ring competition. You had AJ Styles and Nakamura, their dream match. And yeah, I'll get into the matches on the match card on the insert, but I just wanted to show you kind of the artwork. It's the same on this, same as the slipcover. So then we will open this up, and this, we do have stacked discs. This was the first year we got stacked disc and no digipack, but you just have a purple disc, a yellow disc, and then I believe the last one, it is a white disc with your Raw after WrestleMania. So even though we didn't get the Hall of Fame with this, I do like that they put the Raw after Mania personally. And you get a Brock Lesnar trading card with this as well. And here's our insert. Very nice looking. I mean, it's simple, but I like the purple and green and gold. Very nice. So to kick off, we have a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. Miz, Rollins versus Balor. And then the SmackDown Women's title, Charlotte Flair versus Asuka. Fatal 4-Way for the U.S. title, Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, Jinder Mahal, and Rusev. Jinder Mahal would win the title there, which was kind of surprising. I think most people thought it would be Orton retaining or Rusev. And then your mixed tag match, probably one of the best matches on this show. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Awesome debut for Ronda, debut match. Triple threat for the SmackDown tag titles, Usos, New Day, and the Bludgeon Brothers. And then your special features here, and this is on disc 1, your kickoff match, or your kickoff show, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the Cruiserweight title match, Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali, and then the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania. Then you had John Cena versus Undertaker kicking off disc 2. Very quick match there. It was like maybe 2-3 minutes. And then the Hall of Fame class 2018 there. And if Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn won this match, then they would be rehired to SmackDown. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Daniel Bryan's return to the ring. So that was, it was a cool moment. Still, just seeing Daniel Bryan back in the ring again after 3 years, I think. And then the Raw Women's title, Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax. The WWE title, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. Had Shinsuke turning heel at the end of that. The Raw tag titles, Cesaro and Sheamus versus Braun Strowman and the mystery partner who was 10-year-old Nicholas. And then your Universal title main event, Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. And then for disc 3, you have your Raw after Mania. I'm not going to read through all of it, but you can pause it and read it if you want. The main event was Rollins, Balor, and Jeff Hardy versus The Miz and The Miztourage. So, and you also had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Winner earns a Raw contract. So, from what I remember, not the greatest Raw, but it had some good moments. So, yeah, I think, like I said, this Mania had a lot of ups and downs. Definitely was not one of my favorite Manias, but I do like some points of the show. So, I mean, it's worth checking out for some of the matches. Then going into our first ever Saudi Arabia show, the Greatest Royal Rumble. So the main selling point of this show was the 50-man Royal Rumble. So, that was interesting. I think it's kind of cool that they did that. You got a nice shot of the stadium down here. You got your main stars up front, Taker, Triple H, Cena, and then a bunch of people, which I think it works because it's a 50-man Rumble. So that's very cool. You have your little trophy there, and the Greatest Royal Rumble green and red artwork. So, this show was just kind of, you had some Mania rematches and, some bigger stars. You had Triple H and John Cena in a match, which was kind of cool. You had Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns for the Universal title inside a steel cage. You had Rollins, Joe, Miz, and Balor for the Intercontinental title in a ladder match. AJ Styles and Nakamura again for the WWE title. You had Taker versus Rusev in a casket match. And then you have Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, who won the Raw tag titles at this show. And then you had Braun Strowman winning the 50-man Royal Rumble and winning that green belt, which I don't think we ever saw again. From what I've seen most of this show, And it's not a terrible one. You know, for a Saudi Arabia show, I think this is a pretty good one to kick off the, string of Saudi shows. So, yeah, definitely not the worst show. Some pretty good matches on it, so, like I said, it's not too bad of a pay-per-view. Then we move into maybe one of the most infamous pay-per-views of 2018, Backlash. So this is when Raw and SmackDown do not have their own pay-per-views anymore. They just went back to they went away from brand exclusive shows, and they're both together on the same show. So they put on here Raw and SmackDown together for the price of one. All right, you got your Raw stars up there, Reigns and Rollins, and then you got your SmackDown stars here. Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe, Styles, Daniel Bryan. On your spine, you got Roman Reigns up there, and then Carmella down below. I do like that black Backlash logo with the L in red, but the rest is blue. That's cool. So, yeah, this show was not the greatest. You did have a really good opener, though, between Rollins and The Miz for the Intercontinental title. But that's about it. You had Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss in a rematch for the Raw Women's title. Daniel Bryan and Big Cass, who had a feud that was only like 2 months, but it went 2 months too long. AJ Styles and Nakamura again for the WWE title. Their matches were never the greatest. I think their last match was the best one, too. So, you had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus Bobby Lashley and Braun Strowman. Carmella and Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's title. And the main event of this show was Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns. And I think this is where some people just started walking out of the show before it was over. So yeah, this was not the best pay-per-view at all. Just kind of a low point of pay-per-views for 2018. But after this, we would move into Money in the Bank. Money in the Bank 2018. From what I remember, this was actually a pretty fun show. I think there were some good matches and then some filler, obviously. So on the cover, you have your two briefcases up here, and then you have your main women's title match, Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey's first match since her WrestleMania debut, and it's for the women's title. So that was actually a pretty good match between her and Jax, I will admit. And then you had your men's ladder match, so you got all your participants there. Owens, Rusev, I believe Kofi Kingston, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, The Miz, Balor, and Strowman. And then you have your women's ladder match here. Charlotte, Naomi, Sasha Banks, Alexa Bliss, Natalya, Ember Moon, Lana, and Becky Lynch. And then your two winners were Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss. And Alexa Bliss would cash in and win the Raw Women's title back. She would interfere in the Rousey-Jax match and win back the Raw Women's title. And then I believe we had Carmella versus Asuka for the SmackDown Women's title. Carmella's title run was never the greatest, I don't think. It was just kind of boring. You got Owens going off the really tall ladder up by the entrance stage. So Owens always does those crazy spots. That's cool. I got to give it to him. He works his ass off, Then you had Reigns versus Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal in kind of a nothing rivalry, just to get Roman on the show, I think. And then you had AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE title for the last time. And this was a last man standing match, and like I said, this was their best match. I think this one made the rivalry a little better, just capped it off on a good note. Styles would retain, but again, I think that was their best match, and it turned out pretty well. There's your discard, your green, and your white. So yeah, like I said, I enjoy this show. It might not be the best, but it's kind of one of my guilty pleasure ones. I like going back and watching some of the matches. So after this, we would move into Extreme Rules. So looking at the most extreme pay-per-view in WWE, I like the cover artwork here because you have the X dividing matches, which they kind of have done over the course of this pay-per-view. DVD covers, I should say. You got Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax, the Bludgeon Brothers and Team Hell No. Your tag title match, your women's title match. Braun Strowman and Kevin Owens. I believe they had a steel cage match on this show. And then AJ Styles versus Rusev for the WWE title. So that was definitely cool. Rusev was really over at this time, and they gave him a WWE title match. So that was really awesome. And then Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley, I believe in a number one contenders match for the spot for the Universal title against Lesnar at SummerSlam, which Reigns would win. And then your main event, you would have Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler in a really good Iron Man match for the Intercontinental title. So, first time the Intercontinental title had been in the main event, and I don't even know how long. It was a while. But yeah, so this show isn't too memorable, but I do think the main event delivered. It was pretty good. And if you've noticed, most of the pay-per-views this year for 2018 were 2 discs, which I think they stopped doing it for most of the shows during 2020. But 2018 and 2019 were packed full of 2-disc sets. And then you get a Bayley trading card with this one as well. And I like the disc art there. There's a little bit more going on than the disc art you see today. So that's it for Extreme Rules, and this was the last pay-per-view before the biggest party of the summer. Then we move into SummerSlam 2018, and here's a good example of just packing everyone you can on the cover. This is not my favorite artwork, but you do have your main stars up front, so I guess it is what it is. You got Alexa Bliss and Ronda Rousey on the spine, as well as Roman and Brock, kind of your co-main event, and then your main event. So this show was it's kind of like Mania for me. This show is kind of up and down. I enjoyed parts of it, but not others. Yeah, Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, finally. Everyone was looking forward to them having a match, around this time at least. You had Charlotte versus Becky Lynch versus Carmella for the SmackDown Women's title. And Dean Ambrose had returned around this time to be in the corner of Seth Rollins when he took on Dolph Ziggler for the Intercontinental title again. So they had a pretty good feud during the summer, Rollins and Ziggler, I will say. You had the New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers for the SmackDown tag titles. You had Demon Balor returning, but it was only against Baron Corbin, so it is what it is. Ronda Rousey would pick up the win and win the Raw Women's title, defeating Alexa Bliss here. And Roman Reigns would finally beat Brock Lesnar to become the Universal Champion. So, this was when Brock Lesnar held the title for around, I think like a year and a half. And finally Reigns won the belt, So, like I said, this show is okay, but it's not one that I go back and watch very often, But definitely not too bad of a show, so yeah, that's it for SummerSlam 2018. But coming straight off of SummerSlam, we go into Hell in a Cell. And Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns were the main event. Braun Strowman cashing in the Money in the Bank opportunity and facing Roman inside Hell in a Cell. And I believe, Lesnar would interfere. And then it would just be a no contest, which was kind of weird. It seemed like they went on a trend of doing this with Hell in a Cell matches for a couple years, just no contest, and this was the first of a few. But, honestly, this show isn't too bad. You had Becky Lynch and Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's title. I think Becky Lynch was heel at the time. Rematch for the Raw Women's title, Ronda and Alexa. You had AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. I didn't mention that on SummerSlam, but they had a feud going for the WWE title. Always had pretty good matches, those two. You had Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre versus Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins for the Raw tag titles. And then Jeff Hardy and Randy Orton in a really good Hell in a Cell match here. I thought that was awesome. Stole the show. And like I said, Roman and Strowman in the no contest Hell in a Cell. So, not the best main event, but at least we did get one good Hell in a Cell match with Hardy and Orton. So yeah, you know what? This was an alright show for being kind of the breather after SummerSlam. Then we go into Super Showdown. So I think this was a Australian pay-per-view. They went to Australia, and you have the Shield up there. They had just gotten back together, I think. And your big main event, The Undertaker versus Triple H. I think they tagged this as the last time ever that those two would go one-on-one. You got Becky and Charlotte up top, AJ and Samoa Joe. So yeah, like I said, you had the Shield in a match here against Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, and Dolph Ziggler, I believe. You had AJ Styles and Samoa Joe again for the WWE title. Ronda teaming up with the Bella Twins against, I couldn't tell you who. I don't remember. I guess the Riot Squad, yeah. You had John Cena and Bobby Lashley, I believe, versus Elias and Kevin Owens. And then your Cruiserweight title match, pretty good actually, Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander. Becky Lynch and Charlotte again. And then your main event, Triple H and The Undertaker, which would lead into DX versus the Brothers of Destruction at Crown Jewel, which never got released on DVD. And I guess there's a reason why. That was one of the other kind of worst pay-per-views of 2018. So I won't talk about Crown Jewel, but yeah, it was not a part of the 2018 pay-per-view collection. But Super Showdown, again, not very memorable of a pay-per-view, but it was an Australian pay-per-view, so that was kind of the selling point. And yeah, it is what it is. That's about it. Then we get the first ever all-women's pay-per-view, Evolution. And I do like the cover here. You got Ronda Rousey front and center, so that's cool. You got Becky, Charlotte to the side, Natalya, Nikki Bella. Pretty cool artwork. I like the blue, bright blue at least, so that's cool. Yeah, I mean, the main two matches on this show that I remember are Charlotte and Becky in a last woman standing match for the SmackDown Women's title, and then Ronda Rousey versus Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's title. And I have not seen a lot of this pay-per-view, I gotta be honest with you, but I do know the two women's title matches, so yeah. I can't give my full thoughts on this show because I haven't watched it all the way through. But there's your blue disc art, and yeah, this was the first and the only all-women's pay-per-view that WWE has ever done. So yeah, that's about all I gotta say about Evolution. Then we go on to brand supremacy time, Raw versus SmackDown at Survivor Series. I do really like the artwork, how you have the Raw side and then the SmackDown. You know, you got Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar here. One of my favorite matches of just all time, really. That was a great match. Then you have Charlotte and Ronda, your co-main events there. And then your 5-on-5 matches there. So you had, and then your Intercontinental Champion versus U.S. Champ, Rollins versus Nakamura. There's your spine, you know, your two main events, Ronda and Charlotte again, and Brock and Bryan. So yeah, I enjoyed this show, mostly for the main events. You know, Ronda and Charlotte put on a pretty good match there, and Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar was amazing. That was just great. Yeah, the Bar versus the AOP, who, I mean, I don't really remember them much. The Authors of Pain. But yeah, your tag champions going against each other. Your 5-on-5 matches, I believe the sole survivors were, of the men's, were on the Raw side. You had McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Braun Strowman, I think. But it was Strowman, McIntyre, Ziggler, Lashley, and Balor versus Shane McMahon, Jeff Hardy, Samoa Joe, Mysterio, and The Miz. And then your women's side, you had Alexa Bliss's team, Nia Jax, Tamina, Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Mickie James versus Naomi, Carmella, Mandy Rose, Sonya Deville, and Asuka from SmackDown. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've said it a lot, but I don't remember much from this show other than the main event. You know, the 5-on-5 matches aren't too memorable. Not the greatest. But, like I said, really good main event. I can't say that enough. But that's about it for this show, you know. This is a 1 or 2 match show for me, but those matches were really awesome. Then here we are at the final pay-per-view of the year, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, TLC 2018. We have your 2 women's title matches, and then not your world title matches, but at this time the Intercontinental title was on top again after Roman had to leave due to his leukemia coming back, so Brock was the champion again and not at every show. But you did have Rollins versus Dean Ambrose for the Intercontinental title. You had Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey again for the Raw Women's title. A triple threat TLC match. I think this was the main event of the show too. Charlotte versus Becky versus Asuka. And Asuka would pick up the win here to win the SmackDown Women's title. And then we had Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles. They always had good matches, and this was after Daniel Bryan was a heel. And I think this heel run from Daniel Bryan was really good. So yeah, pretty good string of 4 matches there. You also had Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton, and Braun Strowman versus Corbin, at least sort of. So not a terrible TLC pay-per-view, I won't say. Yeah, or I will say. Good WWE title match, solid main event, and some good matches in between. There's your disc art, red and gray, and a Rollins trading card. So yeah, that's it for TLC, and that caps off 2018. So that's going to do it for the year of 2018. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll catch you in the next one.